Should be a short little live stream. We don't have too many questions, and we honestly don't have too many updates. I was hoping that we would have more for y'all here, so that's why we're doing this so late. Obviously, I'll be streaming tomorrow as well, but couple different things. One, Adam Thielen's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and this doesn't really matter. I have DK Metcalf. I think that this has no impact for him, and I wouldn't bother picking up Adam Thielen even in deep leagues. He's totally dust at this point. Amon-Ra St. Brown does not practice again on Tuesday. So the Lions are playing on Thursday. So with that in mind, I think the expectations are you're going to have no Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know if I've ever ranked Jameson Williams higher than like wide receiver 20. What I'm probably going to do though with Jameson Williams this week is he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver for me. Like I'm going to have JMO probably like wide receiver 6. Let's see. Amari Hampton likely to return in week 14. Tyrone Tracy said he's fine after suffering a hip contusion / stinger during Monday's game. So I thought Devin Singletary was going to be a must add. Everybody should be looking at, but now at this point, Devin Singletary, not nearly as exciting. We don't have any news with Aaron Jones though. And yes, St. Brown, we already discussed. Brandon Ayuk, don't think he's coming back this year. And yeah, that's about it for the update. Sadly, we don't really have any updates for Drake London, Aaron Jones. I'll let y'all know in my own league, I put in a decent little waiver wire bid for Jordan Mason. I'm expecting Mason to probably be out. And a couple different things I want to point out as well, or just give an announcement too. There was just a massive update to the back end of flockfantasy.com that will hopefully in the long run make things load faster, run smoother. You don't get logged out nearly as often, but that was just pushed out earlier today. So I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of bugs that need to get worked through because that update impacted every single little page of the site. So if you have any issues with flockfantasy.com, you can email support@flockfantasy.com or open up a ticket in the site issues section of the Discord as always. But let's go ahead and let's run through this. Nickel pickle for Daniel Jones, Lawrence. I'm going to go Daniel Jones over Lawrence. Obviously, if you are looking at what we have with the Colts projections, it's concerning the fibula injury that we have for DJ, but the Colts project score 25 points this week. I think that at running or at the flex, you have to play RJ Harvey, Cortland Sutton, and then between Brian Thomas, Woody Marks, it's very, very tough. I would say Woody Marks is probably the play, even though he plays against Kansas City Chiefs, coming off a game where he had 20 opportunities. Now, W. French says, hook 'em horns. Big day for us Longhorns on Saturday. Bye week this week. Playoff formats 2 weeks each matchup after the first week. 1 week for week 13, weeks 14 and 15, and then 16 and 17. Only a 1 quarterback format. So you're saying that your bye. Okay, let me send you over a couple of free start sit questions. So if you wanted to follow up with anything, but you're saying that we had a bye this past week and our playoffs starting now in week 14. I hate that, by the way, with teams having a bye week in week 14. Looking at quarterback, I would go Burrow over Baker. 52.5 over under for that Bengals-Bills game. You start Burrow if you have him. Running back, you play Bucky over Barkley pretty easily. It's sad for me to admit it. I have Barkley on my team. And then I have Barkley, Waddle on my team, and I have Igbuka. I'd probably play Barkley here in the flex. Not super excited about it, but they should be favored by 3 points over the Chargers as long as Herbert's out. If Herbert plays and you wanted to pivot over to like Harvey or Igbuka, I wouldn't fault you for it. Now, scattered dice here at quarterback between May and Lamar. May is not going to play, so you'll have to play Lamar and send up a prayer he does something. Kittle is on bye, so you're going to play Tyler Warren. And then in the flex, I would go Justin Jefferson over Tedero. McMillan's on bye, Wandell's on bye, Henderson's on bye, Ramondre's on bye, George Kittle's on bye. Literally every single one of those players is on bye, so you're going to have to play Jefferson. Now, Iverson trading away Rodriguez and Nico Collins for Marv and Tedero and McMillan. I'd rather have Nico over Tet. I'd rather have Marv over Rodriguez. Do you need the additional starter? You have Olave, Nico, Worthy, a running back. You don't have a lot of depth. So I understand if you wanted to go ahead and make this move. The only thing that I would stress is in that instance, you really only want to do so if Marv's actually going to be back this week. Now, Lazarum here, quarterback between Daniel Jones and Jaden Daniels. I would go Daniels if he plays, but he probably won't. Looking at your wide receiver slots, I think you're going to play the combination of Devonta Smith, Terry McLaurin. Tight end, you play Bowers. And then in the flexes, I think you're going to go with Pittman and Zay Flowers. And then if you wanted to pivot to somebody else, you would probably bench Zay Flowers to play Kenneth Walker. Oh, that water's good. Nothing's better than some warm temp water when you're dehydrated. But we got Bitter Hornet in the chat. Appreciate you, my friend. And I know we are getting to your questions now. So let me know if you have any specific questions about these, my guy, like anything waiver wire wise, I can try to help you from the chat. Looking at your starting lineup right now, the best name to get in your lineup this week would be Jaden Higgins. But out of these players that you currently have in there, I wouldn't make any of those swaps. I obviously know that you had those 2 players on week 14 buys, so running back's a little bit tough. I think you have McCaffrey and Dowdle out. If you want to let me know what your favorite waiver wire running backs are, like I'd rather start Jordan Mason over by Shell Tootin this week if Jordan Mason's available on your waiver wire, considering the Aaron Jones injury. And then your other team, Wandale's also on bye, Dowdle's on bye. So we're gonna have to Ricky Pearsall's on bye. So it's either like Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, Devin Singletary. Singletary's on bye as well. I think we're gonna go ahead and we're most likely gonna be taking Jaden Higgins. But yeah, obviously not super excited about that, my friend. Now, Kile, here we're trading Kyron Benson Igbuka for Rodriguez, St. Brown, and Devonta Smith. Igbuka to St. Brown, lateral move, depending on your team situation. Kyron to Devonta Smith, downgrade. Benson to Chris Rodriguez, downgrade. I'd rather have the Kyron and Igbuka side, unless you're guaranteed a bye and you don't really have to play again until week 16, which in that case, you'd rather go St. Brown. Mr. E, here running back. I would go RJ Harvey over Amari and Hampton this week, considering the matchups. Hampton has to play Philly. Harvey gets to play the Raiders. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to miss, so I think you have to play Jameson in at wide receiver, and then I'd go Olave in the flex as well. And then if Olave were to miss, then you'd pivot over to Amarian. But Bitter Hornet says, need to drop players to get T. Higgins and Jaden Reed off the waiver wire. CMC and Dowdle on buys. The waivers, we have Singletary, Spears, Corum, Burden, Mooney, A.D. Mitchell, and Jalen Coker. So I would not opt to pick up Devin Singletary for your team because you do have to deal anyway with the week 14 bye for Dowdle and McCaffrey. So picking up Singletary is just going to make that difficult for you as well. If you have to drop 2 players to bring up T. Higgins and Jaden Reed, I'd drop Brian Robinson. And then your other drop's going to be between Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Higgins, and Jaden Reed. So as crazy as it sounds, I think I would drop Jaden Reed, which I know sucks. You're saying you clinch the playoffs with both teams here. Well, I think you drop Brian Robinson and you drop Jaden Reed. Like, if we go through and look at this, there's a real shot he's back this week, but Jaden Reed last year was the wide receiver 41 in points per game. Like, there is no guarantee that Jaden Reed is viable this season, especially coming off an injury. So I would cut him because you need to start Jaden Higgins this week, even if you are guaranteed that playoff spot. Beto says, hey, Mason, should I drop Devin Neal for Singletary, $15 fat? Based off the report that we just got with Tyron Tracy, I want it. And this week, I'd start Stafford over Caleb. Running back, you start Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs my running back 1 this week. Gibbs probably the number 1 overall player in fantasy this week. Wide receiver, you'd go Lamb, Worthy, tight end, Tyler Warren, flex, Genty. And then I'd probably flex. Actually, I'm sorry. You go Terry McLaurin over Xavier Worthy. And I'd probably flex Devin Neal here. But yeah, we just got a decent word with Tyron Tracy, so I don't think Devin Singletary is nearly as interesting as a waiver wire pickup as he was. And then Beto, we just answered this question. It seems like you sent it in a couple of times. I don't know if this was an issue that we had with the site when we pushed out the update, if we got a couple of duplicates in. But regardless, let me send you over some free questions just in case I'm maybe misreading that situation. Bitter Hornet says, clinch the playoff. Should I add anyone for the waiver wire? We got Jordan Mason, Chuba, Spears, AD Mitchell, the Bucks defense, or should we stay put and add Reed off the IR? Okay, so this is an interesting spot. I would say quarterback, if Daniels plays, he plays Jaden Daniels over Caleb this week. Caleb's in a really tough spot. It's very easy to tell you to cut Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan's never hitting your starting lineup. I would cut Jalen McMillan, and here's the thing. I would rather have Jordan Mason and Chuba Hubbard over Jaden Reed. So I would cut Jalen McMillan and then honestly probably cut Jaden Reed and pick up Jordan Mason and Chuba Hubbard. If Jaden Reed's currently on your IR, you're not going to be able to cut him for one of those names, which in that case, here's what I'd probably do, to be honest. I would cut McMillan, pick up Jordan Mason, and then I'd start Jordan Mason in the flex this week if Aaron Jones were to miss. And then what else could we look at? Kind of want to tell you to pick up Chuba. I would pick up Chuba Hubbard. I would cut McMillan. I would not activate. Like, if you have to move Reed off the IR, you move him off the IR and then you just cut him immediately. Like, he's not worth a roster spot if like Chuba Hubbard's on the waiver wire. And then I would cut Luther Burden and pick up Chuba Hubbard. So effectively, you'd be picking up like Jordan Mason and Chuba Hubbard, and you'd be cutting McMillan, Luther Burden, and Jaden Reed. But let me make sure we send you over some free questions real quick, my guy. And then also clinch playoffs, add waivers to stay put. We got Jordan Mason and Chuba Hubbard with this waiver wire as well. And then playoffs, Dowdle or Singletary. So based off the report that we just got regarding Tyrone Tracy looking like he's going to be okay, I would say you're more likely than not going to want Rico Dowdle over Devin Singletary. And then here at quarterback, I would go Daniels over Caleb if he were to play. And then, yeah, this is kind of the same exact setup as the last one, but, and then I don't know what defense that you have right now, but yeah, the Bucks defense has a phenomenal schedule the rest of the way, including this week. If you wanted to pick up the Bucks defense, I think they are 8.5-point favorites. But okay, you're saying Jalen McMillan as well as Jaden Reed on the IR. So in that case, like, definitely, I wouldn't bother activating them just because you're going to have to cut players that are much better. So really the only guy that you could cut at that point would be like Luther Burden, and I would cut Luther Burden for Jordan Mason. And if you can't get Jordan Mason, I'd cut Luther Burden for Chuba Hubbard. But yeah, and then don't activate Jaden Reed and Jalen McMillan to cut any of the other players. If you have to move them off your IR, you move them off your IR and just send them right to the waiver wire. But I think the only real pickup that you're going to make there DST wise, I don't know if your defense, you can just let me know in the chat right now what defense you have and if Tampa would be a better option for you. But one thing that I am doing and I've been doing over the past few weeks in my league is I am planning out my next few weeks. I'm sorry, I'm not even planning out my next few weeks. What I'm doing is I'm planning out week 16 and week 17 with my DSTs already. So I picked up the Rams defense last week, and I was pretty aggressive to get them. The reason for that is they get the Atlanta Falcons in week 17. And then the defenses that I have bids on to pick up in my league right now, I have a bid to pick up the Buffalo Bills. They do not have good matchups in weeks 14 and 15, but in week 16, they get to play against the Cleveland Browns. So I can play, and I have a bye week, right? So really the only, like, it doesn't matter if I win or lose week 14 realistically. I'm going to have a bye week, so I'm not going to have to play week 15. So the only 2 weeks that really matter for me in my league are going to be weeks 16 and 17. So I'm mapping this out. It's like, oh, okay, I can play the Bills DST against Cleveland in week 16, and then I can play the Rams DST against Atlanta in week 17. And then also I am rostering, I'm not rostering, but if I don't get the Bills, I also have a bid out there for the Kansas City Chiefs because in week 16, they get to play against the Tennessee Titans. So I have multitude of bids. I have 2 different bids out for defenses right now. One for the Chiefs, one for the Bills, both just for week 16 matchups. We got the enemy in this live stream. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Avery, I was hoping the turkey hat would be here by now, but it's not going to be here until tomorrow. So I have not submitted any Flock League clips yet. Obviously, I'll be wearing turkey hat in every Flock Fantasy video as well, sadly. But it's not in just yet. And I'll also, for you, wear it in all the Flock League videos. But if you have the Rams defense in that league, let me see. So like I said, I'm rostering the Rams defense as well for the week 17 matchup. My whole point of saying this is I think what you can afford to do at this point of the year is you can afford to roster 2 DSTs. So if you have the Rams defense, week 15, you're probably not really wanting to start them against the Detroit Lions. So what I would do if I were you, to be honest, is I would go over to your waiver wire and I would sort by projected points for week 15. And so if you were in my league, right, the best defenses for week 15 are projected out right now to be the Niners. They get to play against the Tennessee Titans, and the Chicago Bears get to play against the Cleveland Browns. Let me see what Tampa's matchup is. Tampa, week 15, gets to play against the Atlanta Falcons. So, yeah, you can pick up Tampa. Don't get me wrong. And then, honestly, I think the Rams have not the best matchup week 16 either. So, you could pick up Tampa, play them this week, week 15, and week 16. But week 17, like I said, I do think the Rams have a pretty good one. So, I'd probably hold on to the Rams. But Jack says, is the website down? The website shouldn't be down. If you're having any issues with the website, please email support@flockfantasy.com or open up a ticket in the site issue section of the Discord. There's a really big update that was pushed out to the site earlier today. So if you're having any issues, you're probably not the only one. And if you were to send us a message about that, the devs can get it fixed ASAP for you. But it'd be super good to know what issues you're having with the site if you are. But Jesse says, got my hat, big dog. Appreciate you, my friend. And yes, we sent out thousands of hats and we've been grinding away with that for a long time. So if you're in the chat, let me know if you've gotten a hat. Hopefully you have. But Gon says, projected to make the playoffs, but fighting for the bye week, but not likely to get it. My flex is J Mid right now. Who the hell is J Mid? You're just saying your flex is mid. Debo to Tedero McMillan upgrade. Harvey to Godwin downgrade. Leftover running back, you'd have Bucky and Derrick Henry, and that's it. For me, I think you can say that Tedero McMillan's probably the best player in this deal, but I don't think it's that big of a gap between Debo and Harvey if you were to get Jaden Daniels back this next week. So I would probably opt to just hold on to Harvey and Debo. But I think we're all caught up on questions. Let me do this. We got well done sending in a question. But real quick, Jack, if you're still in the chat, please let me know what platform are you trying to ask a trade question from. Is it a Yahoo, ESPN, or Sleeper League? But well done here, quarterback. Honestly, I think you may start Dak over Hurts this week, sad as it is. You go A.J. Brown at receiver, tight ends. I'd play Harold Fannin. And then in the flex, Kyron, Pittman, and Waddle. I think that's pretty easy. The one thing I think you could swap here if you wanted to is you could play Ertz over Fannin. Okay. And yeah, Bitter Hornet, if there's anything else that you ever need, you don't even feel the need to ask it on the site. Obviously, I appreciate you supporting the stream, but if you ever run out of free questions on the site or anything, if I forget to send you enough, you can always just ask me questions in the chat. I'd be happy to answer you. But I think we should probably be good here. Hopefully Jack sends a message in the chat telling me what his exact problem is so I can forward that over to the devs. But I really appreciate y'all hanging out with us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I have more injury updates and stuff for y'all tomorrow. But yeah, until then, really hope you have a great night, and I'll see you out in the live stream tomorrow night.